Hello and welcome to Magic in Mind. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham, and today I have the delightful and delicious Laura Daligan here with me in conversation with me, and we are looking at walking between the worlds. One of the things that I think we both find sort of interesting and that our work is dedicated towards is that what used to be the sort of everyday natural approach to life of communing with the ancestors, of journeying between worlds, of having the deity or your relationship with the divine has been sort of imminent and present, and you're in continual relationship with the spirit world.
Yeah.
So different today in the modern world.
I think it's quite a fail, to be honest. Yeah. I think it just takes such a dimension or multiple dimensions away from experience, doesn't it? And it's the experience of nature, the experience of our spirituality, the connection with the gods or the land spirits. Even like a walk in the park can take on so much more majesty if we are understanding that there's not just lovely tree, which is lovely, or stone over there. But to know, and we know somewhere it's sacred. Someone told, we know it's sacred, but we don't quite know how to access that because that vision has been stripped away. So I think a lot of our work, I was looking back at an EP that I wrote a few years ago was called Between the Worlds. My dissertation was called Divine Flight Between the Worlds. I'm a little bit obsessed.
Yeah. I didn't even remember that your dissertation was called Divine Flight Between the Worlds. I know one of the titles that I was given at one point in Yggdrasil's path that we're going to talk about was World Walker, which I quite liked. It's interesting, and I sort of feel as if I'm diving in a bit here. But as you were speaking about it, it made me think that one of the things that's important is recognizing, and I got this from the work of Raven Caldera and then Brian Bates. Idea that our world is much more than we now take it to be. That sort of that Middle Earth, let's say, if you want to call it Middle Earth, is much bigger than the physical Earth that we now take as being our sort of reality. So when we're talking about walking between worlds, it isn't just, which I'm going to talk about more about, going to Vanaheim, Asgard, or Jotunheim, and these totally supposedly like different places. But it can also be about recognizing that there are other worlds within ours all of the time. Yeah. And we are missing out on a relationship, with plants and trees and the earth when we can't see that and interact with it. I've certainly done that with a number of cohorts on Yggdrasil's path. We've looked at working within Midgard and opening doorways within Midgard. I do my little ceremonies using my runes and making runes and sort of opening gateways in my garden and things like that to say, let's let the spirit world back in. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that. Like straight.
Yeah. It is. It's something that even when you do have an awareness or a connection with, animals or nature, kind of just seems to gather around you. Like, oh, she can see. Well, they can see. Like, I think, they calm. There's a calmness to that vision. We're very like hunter eyes and walking forward, and doing that and on the phone and da-da. We're just going to expand that vision to not only more in our surroundings, but to different layers. You can see that animals and just nature shifts in its connection with us. So it's not like you have to go and do a lot. It's also starting to shift that awareness in your connection with the land. And that can be shifted by shifting your eyesight from being like, and stopping and looking outside or just breathing into the space and letting the land share something with you.
Yeah. And I love the way that different disciplines will have approaches and they'll describe them in very different ways. Like in the coaching world, we talk about going into expanded awareness. So this idea of expanding the vision outwards. And which is so similar to what we're then describing in terms of people who are healers, perhaps, who suddenly, you're not going around all of the time seeing people's auras all of the time or feeling energy all of the time. You have to sort of open that eye in order to do that. And that is part of walking between worlds or flying between worlds. Think about it, is recognizing that our world is bigger and exciting to be called to that.
It was funny because when I was going to do a dissertation official title, when you kind of put it into uni, I was like, it doesn't like officially need to be called Divine Flight Between, there was a more uni way of writing it. And it was like, no, it needs that because it's that remembering that this is
Yeah.
not just, okay, here's a study of this, like divine flight between the worlds, like that has to stay. And I was like,
Yeah, and it does speak so profoundly of something that we might think is fantasy, but actually stems from a different experience of reality to the ones that we have now. I wanted to ask you, I didn't ask you this question before, so you haven't prepared it, but it was just, what's your first ever remembrance of an experience of sort of walking between the worlds? What it was that is that made you go, this is a thing. This is small.
there's probably lots of experiences. I mean, there's experiences in ritual where we're able to do this, you know, in a held space, in ceremony, we journey and we go somewhere else. And suddenly there's some recognition that that's actually a real place that other people have been to, or that happens in life and it connects a different way. You know, you go on a journey, you think, oh, that's lovely. And then it has those ramifications where you realize, oh, hold on, that actually is a place. That wasn't here. That was somewhere and those beings were really connecting with us. But also, you know, in walks in nature, when it goes to those in between times, usually where you just get that sense that you're in a different space. You're walking maybe in the nighttime, or you're walking in the forest, and incomprehensible random things happen that really shouldn't. You know, I walked downhill for a long while, I ended up on top of a cliff. I was like, but I've been walking downhill. You know, it's just like you're sort of being shown that you've been in some kind of different space and come out. And I've shared that with other people as well, where these things have happened and we've just gone, we were somewhere else for a bit. So I think, yeah, there's ways when we journey and we go to places and we make changes that then affect our lives, or we go to places and there is reality that comes back. And also that when we go into nature and we experience that shift in energy and realize that we're not quite on the park, we're not quite here, we've gone to that other space and we are being seen. Or you notice, I think sometimes by the animals looking at you differently, or getting really strong, intense feelings about you should be here or you shouldn't be here. Oh yeah, that's. I can't think. There's probably been really profound moments, but yeah.
No, but I think that's the thing, is it's relatable, isn't it? And I bet there's so many people watching this will go, oh, that was my experience as well. Now, one of the journeys that I did to Alfheim, I worked with an elf guide for a long period of time. And he told me, he said that we, like human beings, you know, I was asking about changelings, you know, why we have these legends of human children.
Yeah.
And he's like, we like human children because human children are born awake and then you gradually fall asleep. And I was like, oh. And it was so fascinating. And he was like, yeah, our children, they're really dull. When they're born, they're so dull and we have to teach them how to see all of reality. Whereas human children, it's the other way around. But then you taught you to sort of shut that down so you don't see it.
Yeah.
And when you were speaking, I was thinking about my experiences and saying to my mum, there's a woman at the top of the stairs and she couldn't see that. And I turned that into, it's the mad woman in the attic from Jane Eyre, and it's an imagined thing and an afraid of thing rather than, you know, what it actually was. And I sort of went back years ago. It was just a spirit who was hanging out, you know, and wasn't negative in any way. But when you don't have that validation, and it keeps on happening.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, that's in my head. I mean, I had such intense, vivid dreams as a child. And it was just, oh, you know, your imagination is it's very, like it was a problem. You know, it's a lovely thing to have, but it's also a problem because you can't control it. And, you know, there was no one to tell me, yes, this is happening. And then I remember as a teenager talking to someone very early on. We were in the pub, so presumably I was old enough to drink, you know. And he was talking about dragons, you know, talking about dragons. And I was like, who is this person? And I thought, oh, this is a strange person. I've got to be wary of them. They're strange, you know. Yeah. I'm buzzing my head to go, they might, it's true with them, you know, that might happen as well. And we were walking home over the hill that I was born on and that my house looked up on, which is an Anglo-Saxon burial site.
Wow. That's pretty epic.
I would think I was incredibly lucky. And if anyone was going to win, you know, it's not surprising that there was stuff going on and that I could see stuff, hear it and feel it. It's a very ancient place. And I'd always kept those things intensely private. Anybody to say this is normal. And we were walking along and we were separated by about 8 other people, just in your gaggle, your teenage gaggle sort of thing. Yeah, both of us at the same time wheeled around and went, oh, what are you doing? We just talked to someone that no one else could see. And it was like, we'd both seen this figure sort of like rise up out of the hillside, and we both saw it at the same time. And if I hadn't had that was that external validation that somebody then I probably wouldn't, I would always either have kept it like really, really like in here. Spiritual people are not unintelligent people.
No, we're just told that
Fully aware of the judgments.
of course, yeah. But it's just really strange because it just what you said just reminded me of like being probably about 4, maybe 3. I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't driving. I was in the back of the car, obviously. I'm looking. It's nighttime. We're going home because my mum and my nana are in the front, and I'm looking out the window on the road and looking at the shops. And there's an old man, and he was bent over, and he was real, but I think, but around him were these little impy demons, and they were prodding at him. And I saw it so clearly. I mean, I think you think I was just imagining that. I remember today. So I don't remember anything else when I was 3 or 4. Like, not to the clarity of this guy being absolutely prodded by things he couldn't see. They were just at him. And I saw that so clearly. And I think I said it, and they were like, "You were dreaming." I was like, "No, I'm fine."
Was he like a really elderly man? Really?
Yeah.
That's
Really,
interesting. I'll tell you why that's interesting. I'm not going to share the octopus story now because I've shared it at other points. If anyone ever wants to know the octopus story, just say, tell us the octopus story. I'll do something.
Do you want to hear that at some point? Yes, please.
Very similar to what you have just described, of seeing something that I was absolutely, totally convinced that I had seen a thing that everyone else was like, no, that's not possible. And it was at a time when I was almost drowned.
Wow.
I was pulled out of the water and things like that, and I sort of felt the sort of protective spirit around me, and I could describe it, etc. And and looked for it for years. But that is probably one of my clearest ever childhood memories, like you said. And we are so programmed to then override those things. Yeah, it just can't have been true. Can't.
Yeah, because the adults didn't see it. So,
and part of the reason for coming in and working with people like me and you and other people who facilitate this, like journeying in and like drawing the veils apart, is reconnecting with that part of us that has been shut down for so long.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to the question that we were going to start with, which
I know,
which is that, see, I was so thrilled when you said, I'm going to come on Yggdrasil's path this year, Maggie, because I've been running it for a while. I ran it in person for a number of years, and then it sort of cocooned itself, and then I moved it online, and it's running now, and I've got a new cohort starting, and I'm opening doors to church. I was fascinated because I was like, obviously you facilitate so many experiences for other people and have so much expertise. What was made you go, I think that this will be a great idea to come and do this? Because it's it's an intensive program. It takes time.
It is intense, and I mean that in the best possible way, because I think being someone's always facilitating for other people, and it being a work that I love. I don't think a job, because it's a work that I love, and I absolutely find it a gift. And also, it is also then you're managing life stuff, normal life stuff. The opportunity to sometimes just to give yourself that space. And what I love at Yggdrasil's path is that it was over a amount of time where there was, there was sessions where you would give yourself to them. Like, it wasn't dip in, dip out. It was like, you will give yourself to that work. And to be able to have that opportunity to just allow that to happen to me, to allow me to be able to journey and heal parts that I probably can't. We all do these work, but we're not superhuman. Well, we are superhuman, but we're not totally superhuman. We need that support and those spaces open for us to step back from the leading role and go into exploration and healing role. And that was absolutely wonderful. And I think really that anyone that's holding spaces for other people as well as on the radio should it would be wonderful if you could give yourself those spaces to do that, because it's been so beneficial. And I was just reflecting about how this last year has been so transformative. And I can say at this point when we started Yggdrasil's path last year was when, like, I'd say shit hit the fan, but shit hit our journeys. There was I was being properly initiated in those journeys. Like, okay, now she's allowing us to do the work. She's not trying to hold space and being good. She's allowing us to do the work we've been wanting to do with that.
Yeah,
and there was
you went
really not my own
journey.
There was poo involved, not my own.
There was poo involved, let's be honest.
It was from the jazz of like, we saw this, we saw that. I was like, gosh, it's on.
No, it's in a lovely way, just to be clear.
Yeah, it was a real.
It was. Sometimes I think that doing these experiences can energetically take us like deeper, and also fast forward through stuff that we're processing as quickly as we possibly can. And we go, oh, I've got to go through this. It's part of my healing path.
Yeah.
But there are ways to expedite the process and to receive like wisdom and guidance that will allow you to access places that you can't. Or
Yeah, we can't do it alone. I mean, we can, but life doesn't give you that much opportunity to, because there's so much you have to, everyone has that. But to be held in that space where you really do get to explore, yeah, fast forwards, not only spiritual shifts, so I say not shifts with an F, but also, you know, as you said, practical stuff. And I think we were just discussing this before the call, like we can go on courses which will bring us, abundance, or bring us a house move, or bring us this. And I feel like you're using a very different part of your brain or your soul when you're working with that than if you're just going into the absolute expansion of the world and asking, you know, and working through journeying your own healing and also journeying to other realms. You're actually opening up to, well, that's going to happen as part of it all. And when you go into like, I'm gonna go in abundance, I'm gonna manifest, which is also really good. I'm not dissing it. It's just a very different way. And I feel this is much more my kind of way of doing it.
Yeah. And it is about finding your own way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Recognizing that for some people that sort of laser focused on this is the outcome, and they're able to hold that lightly enough rather than which never works. You know, it's you know, if you're able to hold that lightly and have that laser focus, then that really works. But it's never really been. I tell a lie. I've been on occasions when I've managed that as well, but it's not when it's fun.
No, and it's like this, isn't it? If you're journeying with Loki, how can you get serious about needing to
big? Indeed. And there is I think part of the reason that you go on something that someone else is holding the space for you, and where there are guides that you're going to be introduced to, et cetera, is that there is a process of surrender.
Yeah.
These are the desires that I'm holding in my heart. This is the healing that I need to receive. And now I'm going to surrender the how to the world of spirit, which has been assembling a whole plethora, a conjury, celebratory circle to come and do this with me, possibly for decades or even before this lifetime. I think you're right. They're so relieved that you've come to surrender. They're like, right, let's get this change fast because you're here, just paying attention. So tell me, because people might be going, well, how does that actually work? Can you sort of give an example of, how that's unlocking process, whatever it is, work for you?
Well, as I said, I was looking at my lovely journal that I'd made throughout Yggdrasil's path, and I just put at the beginning of this exploration of, you know, of our threads, of our path, of where we were going, and I've got one page with nothing else on it, but what it says on it is, I sit in the storm and long for home. That's what I just wrote, and it's nothing else on the page. I was like, oh. But I remember the journey where this feeling of home, it wasn't necessarily a building, but it was a building because, you know, spoiler alert, my house was falling down at the time that I was renting. It was a very bad situation, and it not feeling like home and not feeling safe. And that was an internal, and again, it's like how this works. It was an internal and external thing. Part of this, which is this early feeling of, you know, you think you're going into a journey for one thing, but what you need is, I just want to feel like I have a home and that I feel like I'm safe. And I didn't remember I'd written that, but I remember that experience. But that wasn't why I went into Yggdrasil's path. I went in because I wanted to journey into the wilds and like meet everybody and like have that adventure.
The calling,
But then I was saying that, you know, the process was that I signed up for this, and then after, I think the night before or in the first week of the course, I ended up like not being able to sleep in my bedroom because it all just started. The rain poured in my bedroom. It was just disgusting. Like, it was gross. I spent people with Yggdrasil's path on the sofa, which is an interesting in between the worlds kind of thing itself. It was between space. And then, so anyway, it brought up things about self-esteem, self-worth, as well as about manifesting. You know, there was no thing where we were manifesting stuff. We were going on these journeys and really finding bits of ourselves and calling them back home, as well as exploring other places. But on the last day, I remember on the last day of Yggdrasil's path, so going into the next year, because it's over the beginning of end of the year, the beginning of the year, after I took the call, I got in the car and I went to view this place that I'm in now. And it was literally from the first day, the universe went, all right then, guys, this rain in here, so she does something about it, to this actual freedom feeling of the end. Like, come to the end of those journeys, which was really sad because it was a wonderful experience, but it was allowing me then to journey out into my new life. So that's sort of that's quite a dramatic way, but I think everyone in different ways goes through those experiences in a different way with whatever they've been needing to deal with or I imagine you must get the stories about that. So,
Yes. And just to be clear, you're no longer being rained on.
you're
Lovely.
oh no, absolutely no rain at all. It's a lovely, lovely place. It's very safe. It feels very safe, and it feels very healing. And there's horses, and makes me very happy.
So you walk between the world.
I think we had a chat somewhere before, and I'd said I'd wanted moving water. I think we did an interview. There's something we did. Now I'm talking to you about it. And I said I want moving water, and I want mentioned horses. I don't know. And this place has a stream that comes down from the hills outside, so you can constantly hear the rushing water, but not in the house. And then the horses out the back, and I've restarted horse riding again. So just those things where my soul goes, I want that. I was like, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can make that happen. Yeah. And it's these things are, there is a spiritual transformation. There is a healing because I come away going, now I can do that for myself. I can go between the worlds. I can find a safe passage to go and work with the alpha or with the giants or the spirits of the realms of ice. You absolutely do that. A lot of ancestral work that we do with them, Helheim. And we can have that confidence building is what I want to call it. It's like I know the etiquette. I know I've got a process that I can then follow to how do I connect with the guide? How do I work out how I need to prepare in order to go there and to be safe and to do all of those things? And that's sort of that happens. So it's an ongoing toolkit. But then all of these other things, as well through the course of this work. And I designed Yggdrasil's Pearl deliberately to be a deep dive over a period of time program where we would have a series of journeys into different worlds. And for people who are curious, we do some at the very beginning when we're preparing and we're sort of learning about our journeying self and building the journeying self and accessing healing that we might need before we go on the way. So I have some set places that are we'll always go there and connect with guides there. And then as the program moves on, it becomes much more about, Laura needs to go here. We'll do some facilitated journeys that are normally places that I have never been to.
Yes,
our new guides will come and they'll say, for this cohort, we want to work that way. And then at the end, everyone will share an experience that they have facilitated for themselves of meeting a guide and going to a place. So it does, it's designed to be a program that takes you from that. I know what the 9 worlds are. And I might have been studying the Northern tradition for a long period of time. I might have worked with the runes for a long period of time, but I really, really want to develop that sort of mystic self, that journeying self. It does that. But I think that what's the word that I want to use, that sort of process, that journey of transformation that is inner and outer at the same time, is sort of part of the process of anyone, whatever world you're traveling to, whatever place you're going to. And I know you have been doing this work for a long period of time, but you've done some really fascinating and interesting programs through the course of this last year as well. You've done your master's degree.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me about divine flight between worlds and dragon, faery, and all of the other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it a fun thing that bringing that into academia and not expecting everyone to have is weaving those worlds. You don't expect the professors to believe in dragons, but also some of them just do. Some of them forget. Is academia itself might kind of pummel it out of people sometimes. They actually do really think they do believe it, but they can't say it or have those experiences. And bridging those worlds is really, as you've done, it's a headache. And I think it's a trailblazing thing to do because you're not going to get maybe the the rewards. That's not the right word. It is the rewards. Being
validation, maybe.
That's it. You'd be the best me again. Why is she dead? Knowing how? God. But the fact is that you can back it up because, as we know, this stuff is real. This stuff is, as we were saying at the beginning, that there was, and you can tell us from the art, from the myths, from poems and stories and even from sacred sites, that people, everyday people, whether with it or not, knew that in that stone over there that there was a spirit, and then whether they'd go and connect with it or not, or, or they thought, oh gosh, I don't go to the woods at that time, or they would go. It doesn't mean everyone was like shapeshifting. It doesn't mean everyone was interested in it, but you would know it. And I think you would know it for a very long time, that certain woods have this energy, and certain times of the year you do this. It was a known thing, like that you'd go to the supermarket to buy your milk. It's such a known part. It doesn't mean, not saying everyone was a magician, but that awareness that maybe Bob turns into a wolf at the full moon was not dun dun dun, make a movie about it. There's awareness that something about that person was lupine. There was something about that person was shifting and transforming, and that women could connect with animals in a way that was different, maybe. And it's interesting because there's so many stories. So when I didn't really mean to start, I think that was definitely Freya's work. I hadn't intentionally. I think it was Freya's work, really, Laura. I hadn't intentionally thought it was going to be about birds. It suddenly became about birds, just birds, and shapeshifting and looking into the global myth. Every culture has very ancient tales of usually women shapeshifting into birds, and that is just around the world, from India to America. Just absolutely ancient tales, and that some of them where was it? It is one of the Siberian cultures. And I can't remember exactly which one it was at the moment, but had the swans as the migratory birds as being the return of the goddess, and they'd have festivals to the goddess, the fertility goddess. And that's come until fairly recently, that when the swans return, it is the goddess, the ancestral. It was not just a separate goddess. They believed they were ancestrally linked to the birds. So it's not only people could shapeshift, it was that they were ancestrally linked to a certain type of bird, to a bird mother. And you see images of bird mothers from the very oldest.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it, that sort of idea of shared tradition? I was thinking about there's also water creatures like seals and things like that can be associated. Both of them they're liminal, aren't they? It's like the bird can be on the land, but they fly in. Yeah. Seals the same. They can exist on the land, but they can literally exist in two totally different environments, two totally different worlds.
Yeah.
And interesting that they're often associated with the feminine.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
And talk about sayings.
There's a nice old sort of feeling about it as well, that the birds were originally, these stories were that they came to bring gifts to men, to try and inspire heaven on earth. There was a sense of, and those stories got changed to more sexualized or imprisoned women. And I wonder how much that is obviously from cultural changes. But the original stories aren't so much about stealing skins of fur or feathers, but more into these women would fly down and they would bring gifts and they'd bring inspiration to make people better,
It's interesting, isn't it, when you think about the seal skin tale? It's sort of like, well, what if that was a transgressive relationship, and that actually it was quite normal for people to interact with real women, but not to steal their skin. Steal their skin. What a cautionary tale about why would you do that? It's supposed to be a fluid relationship and a cyclical and returning.
It's just the fact that we don't have tales of Freya shapeshifting makes me think that is an older tradition that they've just brought in the remnants of, but she doesn't shapeshift now because women don't have that. When it was written down, which obviously was Christian time, it was like she had a shapeshift, but it's like the fact that she had it, and it was, it's agreed that she could shapeshift. There was no stories of her using the Val's hammer. She's other shapeshifting, but the flight, she has it. She gives it to Loki. And
we know she had it because she gave it to a bloke.
It's what we're not told, just gives me more fascination. We're not told that she uses it. So it's like, but that almost opens up this whole world of what went on with that.
But I was thinking, as we sort of start to wrap up, how important the shape-shifting, the walking between worlds is, because when we're not able to do that, we become stuck in like version of reality. We get stuck in a house where the rain is always through the ceiling, or we get stuck in the beliefs that our society has placed on what we're allowed to experience and what we're not. And it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And when we are able to access these faculties of connecting, somewhat expanding our awareness out to what's there and doing this journeying work, then we can literally change the shape of the world around us in ways that simply aren't available to us before. And I'm not saying that doing that journey is the only thing that you do to make that happen, but it's in it's a spark moment, because otherwise you can't even connect with the possibility of something else.
Yeah. It's so out of the normal day. It's out of society's normality, prescribed way the world works, and it's saved for horror movies or,
Yeah.
the mystery thriller folklore thing you'd find on C4 or other channels. And it's relegated to something that's a bit scary because of that.
Yeah.
I think still, even though we're like, it's like this is something like stealing the skin and making it scary as a way of, I don't know, keeping it out there and not actually embracing it into this is actually a power that we can inhabit.
Yeah. And our relationship with safety and fear and risk is, I think, very different to the way that our ancestors would do for seeing those things. It is the idea of being able to take knowing risks, that every time you decide to go and journey into another world, there is a risk to a certain extent of what you knew being different when you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Experience being different when you come back. And it did make me think about Loki and Freya and all of the tales where there's a problem. The problem is presented, and then someone will be like, well, I will change it to an eagle, or I will borrow the whatever the tool of whatever it is that I need. This reliance on the ability to change form or to have like magical tools is something that we have lost. Then it's like, if there's a problem, that's almost the first thing you do.
Yeah. The discipline. And you think, surely Odin could just go and sort it out himself, but no, he has to go as an eagle. It's like, surely he can just do what he wants. No, he goes in eagle's form to bring it back. And there has to be that transformation, that higher energy, or that lightness, the energy of the bird or the other animals has to come in. It's not just the god on their own. It's all just about the god. It's about their relationship with the spirits and how the spirits will work with them that gives them the power.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that I really love the Northern tradition, is because we don't have this idea of maybe like a sort of all-knowing deity who could do anything that they wanted to and none of the rules apply to them, and then we have all of the rules applied to us. The tales of the gods are designed to sort of teach us the rules and to teach us sometimes to teach us this might not be the best way. When share the story, I tried it. Wouldn't recommend it in future, but we made the most of it. There's a shared experience, which to me speaks so much more deeply of wisdom from experience.
Yeah.
And
it was so important, wasn't it, that this kind of the hoard of wisdom and what you learn and journey, it would dictate who you would make you richer as a person. It was not, and that was all. It was that lovely feeling of that to go out and have those experiences, to journey, to be staying at home, mate. It's not cool. And that means in a magical way as well as in a go on adventures. Like, to be wise, you needed to journey. You thought it was a bit thick if you didn't.
Yes. How are you? There's no such thing as perfection, is there? There's no such thing. No, I've done enough. And if you stay at home, you read your books and then you know everything. It must be like, walk outside.
Yeah.
And, rather than reading about the hawthorn, you can go outside and maybe, just maybe, the spirit of the hawthorn tree will have a chat with you.
That's what Yggdrasil's path is, isn't it? We've done the reading. It's that invitation to go out on that journey. That's, I think, is a way to.
Absolutely. And perhaps that's the key message from Laura, is their invitation to go out and journey, and to say, that it's knowing is one thing. I think that our world sort of privileges knowing.
Yeah. Academia, it brings it back to that. Like, it's a very rich, fabulous, wonderful. I'm not dissing it for a second, but it is heavy on this side, and that's amazing. But it doesn't, we're kind of taking that and venturing out.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as you know, I love academia and I've worked in it for 25 years and I have great respect for it. But I do think that there is a case sometimes that the more you know, the less you see. So you have more expectations about what's there, what's available to you. Whereas it's like the tarot, isn't it? The fool and the magician, is that cyclical journey. I go out, I start as the fool, I go out, I return as a magician, and I come home, and that's all good. And I
Yeah.
apply that, and then I become a fool again.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, that's yeah. And I think one thing I take away from Yggdrasil's path also is that Freya now got me into wearing gold. I was never into wearing gold. Now I can only wear gold now, like jewelry, not real gold most of the time, but it was like things that are gold color. From that course on, it's like now you will only wear things of that color.
Oh, yes.
I was like, this is the worst time economically because gold's very expensive. Freya had you thought, but gold color's fine.
I found that brass is quite useful for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you get
Those lovely brass things.
I find it, that's one of the things I love about Freya, is that she sort of taught me that things that I had been taught might be like frivolous,
Yeah.
are actually profoundly powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Women's power is often told as frivolous.
Yes. Yeah. It often is. And that sense of life force energy comes from like gold and amber and, well, like living things. She just understands it, doesn't she? She understands it and she knows it. And I think, again, that's why this sense of going out and walking between the worlds is not just an invitation to place, it's also an invitation to like teachers and guide who otherwise are a bit like, well, if you're going to stay at home, enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Ah, is there anything that you would like to share before we finish, Laura?
Oh, I mean, it's wonderful. I love these conversations, and it reminds me of all the magic that we did experience over Yggdrasil's path. And I just love looking in the journals as well and going, oh yeah, because there's such a vibrancy when we do this work. It just brings so much vibrancy into our lives. And yeah, I do run different courses with connecting with goddesses and dragons and fairies in a way where we do experience it. Especially working with the dragon energy, being out in the land and experiencing it and really reconnecting with those power places and those energies. I think it's really important, not only for ourselves, like we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, like seeing the sacred and the other layers in the world, but also to reactivate our connection with it, which also awakens something in the land as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose the only thing that I would add to that, from, because you're right, you're absolutely that your work is so powerfully profound in the same way, I hope, and thank you very much for saying that, off is. And what I love and I think is so important is that sense of being able to say there's research that has been done and sort of body of work that I can point to. And then there's the lived experience that you bring to all of your work, and then that other people get to receive, that we're not journeying into the past to replicate the living relationship that our ancestors had with spirit. We are learning from the ancestors how to have our own relationship with spirit.
Yeah, I think it's so wonderful and healing to bring all the things we love about the stories of the past and to live them. It's not to rewrite them or to tell it, it's to live, to walk that path. Maybe a few steps are different, not on the same, it's not always easiest, but to have that feeling of it's embodying it and living it. I think it's what we're here for, I think, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. It is what we are here for. On that front, you can find Laura and I's websites will be in the links below this video. Thank you so much, Laura, for coming and talking to me. I always find conversations with you really fascinating.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Very joyful. So thank you, everybody, for being with us. If you have enjoyed our conversation, please do leave us a comment and let us know that you have enjoyed our conversation. And if you think somebody else would enjoy it, please share it as well. And let us know how you have traveled with this session.